Do you suck at PvP? Do you always die anytime you try to attack someone? Well, you clicked on this video, so you probably do. But before I help you, I need you to help me. Please subscribe. My goal is to pass Ant of the Sailor by June, and if we can pull that off, I'll give a random sunken item away, and the only requirement would to be join my Discord and be subscribed. So if you enjoyed this video at any time, please consider subscribing, and either way, when we hit 3K, I will be 100% sure to give away a sunken. And with this said, let's get into the video. So first off, let's talk builds. Real quick though. Vitality builds are not finished in this version. I will make a special guide just for Vitality builds in the future, so stick around for that. I'll make an update video when Spirit Weapons are out. But if you run Vitality, do not click off. This does not mean these tips do not apply to you. With that out of the way, you want to make sure that your build synergizes. You can use the Arcane Odyssey wiki for that one. There is a full list of synergies so you can figure out your mage, and for warlocks, there's also a section on the wiki. Same for conjurers as well, all linked in the description. Obvious things you want to avoid is negative synergies, like running something stupid like Poison Ice, where the freezing effect makes your poison do nearly 90% less damage. I didn't know that existed until I was looking at that to make this video. I had no clue there were synergies that could go that low. But for conjurers, you want to make something with a bleed synergy. They don't have to, they don't need a bleed synergy because pretty much everything has a bleed synergy with a few exceptions. It's just a good thing to have. However, this isn't really a requirement, the bleed synergies, as I mentioned earlier, as I've pretty much finished my entire collection of conjurers, and so far everything has worked with conjurer. So just go with what you're happy with if you're doing conjurer. Warlock, I'd say the same, but I'd still recommend paying attention to synergies like crystal boxing or basic combat too. It's pretty good as it instantly clears the crystals effect and makes it do 30% more damage, or the stuns route and run lightning, sailor, snow, ash. Either of those work. Ice 2, which the balance team says isn't a stun, it's still a stun. And it's extremely good, and I feel as if the slows might have made stuns a bit more annoying. And another route you could take for Warlock is the AoE route. That needs no more explanation. Like Earth, Metal, all those things, and Iron Leg. Really annoying builds. If we aren't talking about magic, just find a weapon or fighting style you are comfortable with the exception of Thermo Fist for very, very beginners. It's not really beginner friendly right now because it's in a very rough state. But my best advice for weapon users, and I'd recommend looking at like staff, sunken sword, cutlass, rapier, katana, dual swords, maybe even Vindicator if you want to be a little zesty, Triasta, all that stuff. So like anything like that is worth looking into, and with the up-and-coming update that will introduce spirit weapons, you will be able to customize your weapons, and really just find whatever you're comfortable with, as long as it's not ass. That is my best advice to weapon users. Like, if you're playing something and you know it's ass, find a different weapon, try it, and try to get used to it. Now we can talk about armor. There's a difference between a good class and good armor. You could have a stupidly broken build with no gear and just get destroyed by some random with good gear. Pretty much, gear is important. There's a link down below to a gear builder made by Bobby Newbie, and you can use it to make an armor build and see the stats without even needing to get them in-game, making it much easier to plan your gear out. Now that you know how to make your own gear, let's talk about good stats. First of all, Intensity right now is just garbage for PvP. I'd heavily not recommend it. It's just not worth it. Having high attack speed is very good for lowering your startup and end lag, as well as just making your projectiles much faster. High attack size is pretty much the opposite. Your projectiles aren't as fast, but you can throw nukes depending on what you're playing, like heavy magics like magma, metal you can throw a nuke with, explosion obviously, dense weapons, or sailor fist. Agility is also a good thing to invest in, making it easier to chase or run from enemies. Just saying, sometimes you need to run. I would recommend having at least 70 power and 600 defense, preferably more. Even if it's annoying, I'd heavily recommend fishing and doing the Dark Sea for gear to actually be able to PvP, because it is very hard to keep up without perfect jewels, sunken armor, and no exotic scrolls. I'd also recommend trying to get modified items. Some good modifiers to run items for are frozen, blasted, and crystalline, which frozen increases defense, blasted increases power, and crystalline increases your speed. You can't get modifiers in Sunken, sadly, or boss drops, other than obviously Atlantean Essence, which you have to apply, but here are the locations of the modifiers I mentioned below. Crystalline is found in gracious zones like Shell. Frozen, self-explanatory. Frostmill is the only place you can find them right now. And Blasted can only be found in a Curseus Keep. If you don't know how to get jewel crafting, I have 2 easy tips to get it. 1, if you're fishing for your gear, odds are you'll just get a lot of Lapis and Larmar. These can be used to get more XP than just combining and crafting with regular jewels, making the grind a whole lot easier. For my second tip, you should do the Dark Sea and grab every single thorn flower on the islands when you're getting your Dark Sealed chests for exotic scrolls. It gives you reagents to easily combine with your exotic jewels to get your level up, as well as you're getting your exotic scrolls along the way. So this is a pretty good multitasking way. Once you've gotten perfect jewels, you want to make the actual jewels for your set using copper shrooms, or maybe swim speed jewels if you really are feeling risky. But the easiest way to get copper shrooms is by hopping jaw to jaw on the Redwick jaw spires and just collecting all the copper shrooms up there until you have enough for your full set. With all this info on armor and gear, we can finally talk about tips. My first tip is, if you don't actually want to get good, just run this. It's got a decent amount of speed to reduce your startup and over 100 size, which is plenty, and it's pretty much what you want. If you want to be gay and not learn the game properly, run this. I'm gonna be for real, that isn't actually a tip. So starting off with the actual tips is, don't just use free look or just use shift lock, use both. I like to switch it up in the middle of combat for specific situations, as well as in free aim. Sometimes I hold right click so my mouse stays in the same spot, and because like sometimes I feel like shift lock puts the mouse, like your cursor, a little bit too close to your character, making it hard to see. Here's a few situations that I would use shift lock for. If you're going for a beam, I'd say use shift lock, but free aim also works. For fighting styles, pretty much always run shift lock. It is like far superior than free aim for fighting styles, unless you're using shot. Shot kind of sucks with shift lock, but it still works if you're an AoE shot. When using the katana or dual swords TP move, I forget what they're called, but when using that, you should also use shift lock. Some situations for free aim are, as mentioned above, you can do it while using beams. It's good to free aim with musket, piercing gale, and any projectile like blast. However, truthfully, just use whatever you're comfortable with and don't stress yourself out a lot trying to remember all that shit. Just remember, it is okay to use both. In fact, I'd recommend it. And with this all said, that is about it for this video. Comment down below if you learned anything, and if I taught you something, subscribe. If I didn't, still subscribe. I really appreciate it. And with this said, I'll see you guys later. Peace out.